Welcome back to Chat Like a Native.
It's great to be here.
Today we are tackling a specific type of pain that I think every language learner knows really, really well.
Wow.
It's that moment where you've done all the work, you got the vocabulary, your grammar is, technically perfect,
Yeah.
and you open your mouth and it's just flat.
Or worse, it feels cold. You say something that you really mean to be friendly, and the other person just kind of gives you that polite, confused nod.
Right. You feel like you're transmitting data, but you're not actually connecting. So our mission for this conversation is simple. We want to solve the robot voice problem. We're going to look at why perfect words can sometimes sound so socially awkward.
And we're going to give you a tool to fix it. We call it the music map.
The music map, I love this because it's so easy to remember. It basically says, forget the individual words for a second. If you want to sound human, you just need to do two things.
Just two.
Chunk it and stress it.
That's it. Break your sentences into little parts, and then in each part, hit the one word that really matters.
And if you can master that map, you stop sounding like a GPS, turn left now, and you start sounding like yourself, more warm, more confident, and definitely more persuasive.
It's really the difference between speaking a language and feeling a language.
So let's get into the why of it all. Why is it that I can ace a written test, but when I actually speak, people might think I'm bored or even angry with them?
It all comes down to a concept called prosody.
Prosody. Okay, give us a non-academic definition of that.
Think of it as the soundtrack of your speech. It's the rhythm, the stress, the intonation. And the thing is, our brains are wired to prioritize that soundtrack over the actual lyrics.
So the music matters more than the words.
For emotional signaling? Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, if you walk up to someone with a totally frozen face and a flat voice and say, I am so incredibly happy to see you, do they believe the words?
No, not at all. They think you're being sarcastic. Or maybe that you're a serial killer.
Exactly, because the music, that flat tone, it signals boredom or detachment. Your brain trusts the tone and it just ignores the vocabulary.
Oh.
We often call intonation the facial expression of the voice.
Wow. That's a powerful way to put it. So if you speak with flat intonation, you're basically walking around with a blank stare, socially.
And that creates friction, a lot of friction, because the listener has to work so much harder to figure you out. They're thinking, is he joking? Is he finished talking? Is he mad at me?
Yeah.
I mean, it's exhausting for them.
And eventually they check out.
They do.
To really prove this point, I want to run through this little experiment that I thought was just brilliant. It shows how one single word can have, four completely different meanings just based on the music.
The O experiment, yeah.
The O experiment. It's just two letters, O-H.
Yeah.
But let's see how the music just completely changes the dictionary definition.
All right, let's do it. Test me.
Okay, scenario one. You walk into your apartment, the lights are off, and suddenly 50 of your friends jump out and yell, "Surprise!" Okay, what was that sound? Describe it.
It's a high pitch, a really sharp rise. It's almost like a little squeak. It's fast. And that signals, shock.
Okay. Scenario two. You open your banking app and you realize you spent way, way too much money on takeout last month.
Ooh.
Totally different.
Yeah, that's a low pitch. It's falling, maybe a little breathy. That's disappointment or maybe realization.
Scenario three. I tell you some really good gossip, like, did you hear that the boss is quitting to join a circus?
Oh.
That's a rise, isn't it?
It's a long rise. It's an invitation for more information. It signals curiosity or maybe skepticism.
And finally, scenario four. I just tell you, hey, I put the recycling bin out.
Cool.
Flat.
Short, low, flat. It just signals acknowledgement. I heard you. Message received, and there's nothing more to say about it.
It's wild because on a transcript, it's the exact same word, but in real life, those are four totally different conversations.
And this is exactly where the robot problem comes from. Learners memorize the dictionary definition of O, but they don't practice the music. So they might use the surprise music when they mean acknowledgement, and they just sound manic.
Or they use the disappointment music for curiosity, and they just come across as rude.
It's like using the wrong emoji. You're sending the skull emoji when you really meant to send the heart.
That is the perfect analogy. Intonation is basically social signaling. It's like the traffic lights of a conversation. You're the driver, the listener is the car behind you. You have to signal, I'm turning left into a question, or I'm hitting the brakes because I'm done.
Right.
And if you don't signal,
They crash into you. They interrupt you because they think you're done, or they just stare at you in this awkward silence because they don't realize it's their turn to speak.
I feel like you just explained like 90% of the awkward pauses in my life. It wasn't my vocabulary, it was my broken traffic lights.
It usually is.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the illness. we have broken prosody. But how do we actually fix it? Because honestly, telling someone just have better intonation it's terrifying. It feels like you're asking them to go to drama school or something.
It does feel that way, I know. But you don't need to be an actor. You just need to understand the mechanics. And this brings us right back to our map.
The music map. Rule number 1, chunk it.
Yes. This one addresses the single biggest mistake I see intermediate speakers make. They try to say an entire long sentence in one breath, almost like a run-on sentence.
They're afraid if they pause, they'll lose their turn.
Exactly. They think speed equals fluency. But actually, when you mash everything together like, oh, I was going to weed into my meeting grandly, it just sounds frantic. It sounds kind of a low status.
It sounds nervous.
Right. The human brain processes information in what we call thought groups. These are just small packets of meaning, usually 2 to 4 words.
Okay, but we have to be careful here, right? Because I've heard people try to do this chunking thing, and they end up sounding like William Shatner. I am talking to you.
Right. We want to avoid the Captain Kirk effect. You don't chop up every single word. You chop up the ideas. So let's take that sentence. I was going to call you, but my meeting ran late.
So a robot would say it all at once. Captain Kirk would say every word separately. What does a native speaker do?
A native speaker instinctively sees 2 islands of thought. Island 1. I was going to call you, a little pause, Island 2, but my meeting ran late.
And those pauses, they aren't just empty space, are they?
No, and that's the key. The pause gives the listener a moment to digest that first island before you serve them the second one. It actually makes you sound more intelligent and more in control.
Okay, so we've chunked it. But if I just chunk it, I might still sound flat. I'm just a flat robot who happens to take pauses.
True. That's why we need rule number 2 of the map. Stress it.
The one main stress.
This is the rule that changes everything. In every single one of those chunks, those thought grooves, there is only one word that is the star of the show.
Just one.
Just one. Everything else is just background vocals. That one word gets the spotlight.
So in I was going to call you after work, what's the star?
It's usually the new or important information. Here, it's probably the action call or maybe the time, work. Let's say, I was going to call you after work.
And the second chunk?
But my meeting ran late.
So let's try putting it all together.
I was going to call you after work, but my meeting ran late.
Wow. You know what I just noticed? When I focus on really punching the word late, my voice it naturally does this little acrobatic move. It goes up and then it goes down.
That is the secret. You can't try to manipulate your pitch directly.
Yeah.
It's too hard to think, okay, now go up 5 hertz, then down 10, you'll just go crazy. But if you focus on stressing the key word, making it a little longer, a little louder, your pitch naturally moves with it.
So the stress drives the bus.
The stress drives the bus. Find the chunk, hit the stress, and the music pretty much happens automatically.
That's a huge relief. I don't need to have perfect pitch. I just need to know which word is important.
Precisely.
Okay, so that's the mechanics, chunk and stress. But now let's talk about the specific melodies. Because the material we looked at says you don't need to learn like 1,000 different songs. You really only need 3 main patterns to survive in English.
Yep. The big 3. If you can master these, you can handle probably 90% of all your social and business interactions.
Let's break them down. Pattern number 1, the falling pattern.
This is what we call the confident pattern.
Yeah.
Your voice goes up on the stressed word, and then it just crashes down to the bottom of your range.
Can you give me an example?
I'll set it today. See how my voice just drops on day?
Yeah, it hits the floor. Today.
That fall signals certainty. It signals, I am finished speaking. It's very, very powerful.
Now, I have to ask, for some listeners, dropping their voice that hard might feel, I don't know, rude or aggressive.
It can feel that way. In a lot of other languages, keeping the voice up is a sign of politeness. But in English, if you don't let your voice fall, you don't sound polite. You just sound unsure.
You sound like you're an intern asking for permission.
Exactly. If you say, I'll send it today, with a rising tone.
It sounds like, is that okay? Am I allowed to?
Right. It completely kills your authority. If you want to sound like a leader, you have to have the courage to let your voice fall.
Okay, so falling is for statements for facts. What's pattern number 2?
The rising pattern. This is the inviting pattern. It's what we use for yes-no questions, like, are you free later?
The pitch goes up on later.
And it stays up. It's like you're holding out an open hand. It signals, okay, I'm passing the conversational ball to you.
That one seems pretty intuitive. But the third one, this is the one that really blew my mind, the continuing pattern.
The not done yet pattern. This is the secret weapon for fluency.
Why is it a secret weapon?
because of the interruption problem. One of the biggest complaints I hear from non-native speakers is, people always interrupt me in meetings. I can never finish my point.
I think it's because the other people are just being rude.
And sometimes they are, but often it's a signaling error. The speaker is accidentally using the falling pattern in the middle of their sentence.
Ah. So they say, first we check the numbers, and they drop their voice.
The listener hears that drop, thinks, oh, he's done, and they jump in.
So how do we stop that from happening?
You use the continuing pattern. You keep your voice sort of hovering, just slightly up at the end of each chunk.
Can you show us?
So imagine I'm listing steps. First, we check the numbers, see that hover. Then we compare results, another hover, and finally we report it, and then you fall.
Ah, I hear it. That hover, it creates suspense.
It's a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
It kind of hypnotizes the listener. They can't interrupt you because they're waiting for that other shoe to drop.
It's like vocal punctuation. The hover is a comma. The fall is a period.
That's a perfect way to put it. If you master that hover, you will find people interrupt you way, way less.
I love that. It's a power move, but it's a subtle one.
Very subtle.
Now, I want to pivot to the soft skills side of this. We talk about the mechanics, but there's a big psychological barrier here. A lot of people feel like if I change my intonation, I'm faking it. I'm acting like someone I'm not.
I hear that all the time. I don't want to sound fake.
So what's the answer to that?
I tell them you aren't changing your personality, you are translating it.
Translating the vibe.
Right. Think about it. If you are a warm, friendly person in your native language, but your cultural music happens to involve a very flat, fast tone, well, when you speak English with that same music, you aren't coming across as warm. You're coming across as cold or bored or even aggressive.
So your true voice is actually lying about who you really are.
Exactly. You're sending the wrong signal. You have to learn the English music for friendliness just to be yourself.
Okay, so let's translate some personalities. How do I sound friendly in English? Because that line between efficient and rude can be very thin.
It is. Friendliness in English is all about softeners and rhythm. If you just use a direct command with a falling pitch, like send me the file, that sounds like an order.
That's bossy, yeah.
To sound friendly, we have to wrap that rock in a pillow. We use phrases like, could you, or I was wondering, or just a bit. And musically, we use a wavier rhythm.
Wavier.
Instead of a straight line, it's more up and down. I was wondering if you could send me the file. Do you hear that rolling motion?
Yeah, it takes the edge right off.
It signals safety. It says, I'm not attacking you.
Okay, what about sounding curious?
Curiosity is all about upward energy, a higher pitch range, a faster tempo. If you say really with a low falling pitch,
Oh, really?
you sound like a teenager who hates their parents.
Really?
But if you say, oh, really, with a high rise,
You're the life of the party. You're engaged.
you're inviting conversation.
And finally, confident. We touched on this with the falling pattern, but I think there's a big misconception that confidence just equals loudness.
It's a huge misconception. Confidence is not volume. Confidence is control.
Control.
Confident intonation is usually a little bit slower. It has very clear stress on the key words,
Yeah.
and it isn't afraid of silence.
You don't rush.
You don't rush, and you use that statement fall, we can solve this, bam.
I feel more confident just listening to you say that.
It works.
Okay, we have the theory, we have the map, but now we have to go to the gym. How do we actually practice this so it sticks? Because when I'm in some high-pressure meeting, I'm not thinking of pitch contours. I'm thinking about not sweating through my shirt.
Right. You can't think about this stuff in the moment. You have to train your muscles beforehand so it becomes automatic. We need to retrain your phonological loop.
The phonological loop, that sounds like a roller coaster.
It's basically your brain's audio buffer. It's that inner ear that hears your own voice. And right now, your loop is programmed with the music of your native language. We need to overwrite that code.
So how do we do that?
2 main exercises. First, the question, Jim.
Why start with questions?
Because questions are high stakes. If you mess up the music of a question, the conversation just stops cold. So take a simple reaction word like really or no way and cycle it through 3 different moods.
Okay, let's do it. Mood 1, curious.
Really, just a light rise.
Okay. Mood 2, surprised.
Really,
Yeah.
a big jump, lots of energy.
And mood 3, doubtful.
Really, slow fall, maybe a little vocal fry in there.
It feels like yoga for your throat.
It is. You're waking up muscles that have probably been sleeping for years. Most adults speak in a very narrow vocal range. You have to stretch it out.
Yeah, and the second exercise.
3-layer shadowing. Now, I know a lot of people hate shadowing because they think it just means mumbling along with a
The
podcast.
parrot method.
Yeah, and paired shadowing is almost useless for intonation. You need to break it down into layers.
Okay, layer 1.
Words. Just listen to a short clip, like 20 seconds is plenty, and repeat it just to get the accuracy right. Don't worry about the music at all yet.
Layer 2.
Music. This is the most important part. I want you to caricature the speaker.
Caricature. You mean like a cartoon?
Yes. If they go up, you go way up. If they go down, you hit the floor. You have to exaggerate,
Why?
because your brain will always try to pull you back to your flat baseline. To get back to what sounds normal in English, you have to feel like you are overacting. To you, it will feel fake. But to the listener, it just sounds clear.
That is such a good tip. If it feels comfortable, you probably aren't changing enough.
Exactly. And then layer 3 is emotion. Forget about the pitch. Just ask yourself, what is the speaker feeling? Are they excited? Are they reassuring? And just copy the vibe.
That connects the voice back to the brain.
It makes it human.
So, if I have 10 minutes a day, because let's be real, nobody's doing an hour of intonation practice, what does that routine look like?
Okay, the power 10. Minutes 1, 2. Warm up, hum up and down, slide your voice like a siren.
Get loose.
Minutes 3, 5. Shadowing. Yeah. Pick one short clip and just do the 3 layers.
Okay. Minutes 6 to 8. Question Jim. Practice those reactions in the mirror. And the final 2 minutes.
You have to record yourself.
The dreaded recording.
I know, it's painful, but it is the only way to know the truth. Record a mini story, just 2 sentences. Then listen back and ask yourself one question.
And that question isn't, did I get the grammar right?
No, the question is, did I sound human?
Did I sound human? I love that. That's the ultimate metric.
If you sound like a human who is actually feeling an emotion, you win. Even if you messed up a vowel somewhere.
This has been such a great conversation, not just about language, but really about psychology. So to recap, we are fighting the robot voice. We are using the music map chunk it, stress it. We're using the 3 patterns, falling for confidence, rising for inviting, and continuing for suspense. And we're translating our personality, not just our words.
You got it.
I want to leave our listeners with one final challenge to try this week, something they can do right away.
Okay, I call it the hum test.
How does that work?
Before you say something important, maybe you're practicing a presentation or just thinking about a difficult conversation, try humming the sentence instead of speaking it.
Just literally,
Exactly. If you hum it and it sounds like a flat line, then you know you have a problem. The emotion is totally gone.
But if the hum itself carries the message.
If the hum sounds like a question, or if it sounds like a command, or it sounds excited, then you know the words are going to land. Make the hum do the work.
That is fantastic. Go practice your humming, everyone. Stop being robots, start being humans. Thanks for tuning in to Chat Like a Native.
See you next time.